The product he's referring to, obviously, is conditionally human. Conditionally human. Conditionally human. Conditionally human. Conditionally human. Conditionally human. All right, hello, and welcome to another episode of Conditionally Human. We're coming at you from Calvin's house once again. We're going to get into some cool, interesting topics, but I just wanted to touch on the fact that we have an interview coming out with Atomic 26. That's the local Phoenixville zine. And we actually just got to read through the email that contains all the text that's going to be featured in the article that's coming out towards the end of May, maybe the beginning of June, and we are all really excited. Kenzie did a great job transcribing our thoughts and really putting our personalities onto the page. So we're all pretty pumped about that coming. I just want to say Sixers really screwed us as of late.
It is playoff season.
Yeah, it's playoff season in basketball, and I just want to touch on the fact that they need to pick it up.
Wait, so the Sixers lost their first game?
They lost their first game.
You know who won their first game?
I'm going to go with the Spurs.
San Antonio?
So the Spurs are... do you know what their seed is by chance? No? Do you know where they're placed at?
I don't pay attention.
Okay, because the Sixers are a higher seed and the Nets are a way lower seed. But the Nets are like one of those... they're a dark horse in the tournament where they can make some noise. They might not win the whole thing, but they can definitely knock out the Sixers if Ben Simmons doesn't learn how to shoot a jump shot. You guys want to touch on a little bit of stuff from this week? Anything cool happened to you guys since we last recorded?
Wow. Well, this guy and I... We went to the local play.
Oh, yes.
Sweeney Todd.
The Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
How was that? Yeah, I didn't really get to ask you guys.
It was really awesome. The Phoenixville High School Theater Guild, they put on a wonderful production. Shouts out to them.
It was a little longer than I had expected.
Correct?
I did. I did go to the school, and regrettably did not see enough of the musicals or plays, because it was actually really well done. It was in the middle school, which is built.
You guys weren't required to go in school?
No.
We had it like where it was like everybody went to the auditorium at like a certain time, and then we watched it before the production happened. Like you still had to pay for it, but as a school, it was like a in-school field trip type stuff. Yeah.
Not even that.
I always thought they were cool. I mean, you don't sleep on high school productions. Some high schools put on some seriously quality plays.
The orchestra was awesome. Like the orchestra played the whole thing, which, like you said, like it was longer than I expected. It was like 2 hours.
And Sweeney Todd is a musical. For those, I mean, it's been around forever, but that's crucial that the orchestra was killing it because music makes that play. And most plays. I mean, music's vital in a lot of things.
I honestly had to remind myself. Like I kept forgetting that it wasn't just music playing, and it was like legitimately an orchestra.
Like high schoolers out there killing it.
Yeah,
they were singing. They were singing really well with the orchestra too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely. They all had they had great voices, and like I was thinking at one point they weren't moving around a whole lot, but I can't even imagine just being up on stage for that long singing and just like.
And you're alumni of this school?
I am an alumni.
When did you graduate? What year was that?
High school, 2013. Look me up.
Yeah, right. Check the yearbook.
It was awesome. It was definitely cool to see for sure. Made me want to sing and dance. I wish life was a musical, honestly.
It was interesting, like being there and like we kind of feeling like we're out of school for some.
Where were you guys sitting at? Like, give me some.
Hold on, just like we were sitting like off to the side, but just like watching like the interaction between like most of the other students that obviously aren't in the play, but they're just there to watch, quote unquote, watch or just like hang out with friends. Like the social like awkwardness between all of them, and it was just like really funny and like. Kind of nostalgic, actually.
Definitely. It made me feel old, for sure. And then, like, it just took me back to being in high school and remembering one of, like, my older coworkers telling me, just, like, once you get out of high school, when you're in high school, it seems like it's your whole world, your whole universe. Like, and that's how it feels. I mean, it's true. It's really it's what you do 5 days a week, like, from half the day, and it's, like, where all your friends are. Yeah, definitely. You talk about it outside of it, whatever. It is your life, but once you get out, it's like a whole nother
like how many people do you guys still talk
opened
to?
Up, and it's just so weird to like look back. It's like looking through a portal. But
how many people do you guys still converse with from high school? I have maybe like a handful. Yeah.
I have my best friend that I didn't even go to the same high school with him, but we grew up. We went through high school together and stuff like that. And then when we went to college, we split up. But we've always talked like once or twice a week. We're still like talking. He lives down in Alabama right now. one of my best friends.
Sweet.
Not to shade y'all.
Well, no.
But like, but other than that, honestly, I'm trying to think. I don't really talk to many, if any, from high school, and I always think it's kind of interesting when somebody like friends you on Facebook that you don't even, from high school, that you didn't even talk to me back then, and now you're like adding me on social media. Like, I don't understand that concept, so you just ignore those.
It's the same with like, well, I live in the town I went to high school, so I still see, like, I see a lot of people just around, like, hang out with. My, I don't know, best friend for most of my life, one of my closest friends at this time in my life.
Yeah.
I share my time, but pretty much him, couple others that I see occasionally, but then it's just mostly running into people around town, like especially if you go out in this town. I was talking to a coworker last night about how just running into people and how they like try to act like, oh, like let's catch up, like what are you doing, like let's hang out
Never
sometime.
gonna happen.
Yeah, and you just like never see them again. And
We
you
should
do
hang
see
out
them again,
sometime.
Yeah.
and then it's a little more awkward the next time. Yet you still do the same.
That's
thing.
like the polite hello.
Yeah.
Hey, we still got to get together, man.
Yeah.
Just like
Come on, man.
way
We'll
too
do it.
much. Just
I
like-
have at least like 5 people that I've said that to this past week. So if you're listening, we're gonna get together soon. I got you.
It's like, it's so unrealistic. It's, no one has the time to just like, I mean, yeah, maybe, but like most people don't have the time to do
I always find that I run into, because I went to school right outside of Philadelphia, and I always run into people I went to high school with at like Phillies and Eagles games. I can always count on going to a game, and it's the weirdest thing because your lives are so different, and then you all meet up at like an Eagles game or a Phillies game. It's like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't give them like the we'll hang out shit because I don't like to bullshit people. I'll be like, hey man, it's good to see you. Hope everything's good. Hope everything's copacetic. Like I'm wishing nothing but happiness and success and everything. But there are certain people that I've noticed from high school that are doing big things now that I really want to reestablish relationship with just to help, because I see them on the same path that I'm hoping to be on, and I'm hoping to make some connections because I got a lot of people from my high school that are making moves.
Yeah, that's awesome. And definitely, I wish more people would just like keep it 100 like that and not just like front about like your relationship. Like just tell it what it is. Like you're not someone that I want to hang out with and spend a lot of time with, but it's cool to see you. It's cool to catch up. Like, it's like why can't that be it?
It's funny, before we move on from like this quick little news and side notes, little segment, since we're talking about high school, I read this morning that I think it was Bjork. She performed for a high school dance recently.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it was like some headline
Yeah, really.
somewhere, and I think it was in.
Did she randomly choose the high school?
No, it was her. It was
Okay.
the high school that she went to.
Okay.
Back in the day, and she like did like a DJ set. She played Death Grips, which if you know like the band Death Grips, like that's not really high school, dance type of music, but yeah, apparently she, went over there and she played. I think it was in. Hold on, I'm looking it up real quick.
I think that's
Iceland.
cool. Okay, all right,
It was,
nice.
it was over in Iceland, so.
Nice.
So yeah, I think like that would be super dope to like show up to your high school dance. Like we know there's gonna be a DJ, and then you walk in and it's Bjork, and she has this crazy outfit on and whole production. Like that'd be sick.
Well, I went to high school with Lil Dicky, the rapper, and I was a freshman when he was a senior, and I just so it's like I remember, and little known fact for like any Lil Dicky fans that may listen to us, kid kills it at badminton. Quite possibly the greatest badminton player like I've ever seen in my life. Always won all the tournaments. Like you can go back and check the scores because they keep track of it. Dude was just a killer at badminton. I think that's such a cool, weird fact. I didn't know him like that, and I'm not one of his friends. I can't have reach like that. I just happened to be in the same area as him for a year of my life when I was like a young, bewildered freshman. And he was like, but he was always funny. I remember seeing him at parties. Like his personality is exactly the same, and he's actually coming back with Kevin Hart to do a new sitcom, reality, comedy type deal in my hometown, like where I grew up. They're going to feature places that I used to hang out with and frequent, and I'm excited for that. I think that's going to be cool, and the fact that he's working with Kevin Hart is cool.
Yeah, that's what's up. I wonder if there was one point in his life where he really had to like grapple with the decision, like, badminton career,
Yeah.
rap career.
Well, dude, he was making 6 figures before rap. Like, he was making money. I don't remember the exact job he was doing. Maybe it was advertising. I think it was advertising. And then he just decided one day, he's like, not that I hate it. He's like, I don't really want to do this. I want to go, let's just do rap. And then all of a sudden, he's hooked up with Snoop Dogg. He's on the freshman issue of The Source. Like, he's doing big things. So it's just cool to see people doing that stuff. But, just to kind of move forward a little bit, I had, and I want to give a big up to my cousin Tina and her new husband Mark. Congrats on their wedding.
Congrats, Tina and Mark.
Congrats. Yeah, congrats, guys. I got to go to the wedding on Saturday, and today I've been a little foggy due to the amount of alcohol that I consumed at this wedding.
Definitely been there.
Yeah, because most weddings, as it seems, are open bar from my experience. And an open bar is both a blessing and a curse.
Come to your
exactly.
stupid part.
It's like, hey, come look at us get married. No, it's all good.
No, but if you can like just do a destination, go somewhere like with your wife and get married with her, like, don't worry about the big old party.
Right. But it's definitely what I've seen is the open bar is a staple of weddings, and you get all your family together, and you see the family maybe 2-3 times a year in total, and it's like a festival. You party and you get hammered, and when whiskey's free, it's for me. And I drank a lot of whiskey on Saturday, and I woke up yesterday and felt out of it, but not quite as bad as today. And I feel like with alcohol, it's always the second day where I feel like I'm in a fog. And I definitely forgot my credit card in my truck this morning. Like I was running.
No. You forgot it at your apartment. Had to go back.
No, it was in my truck.
Forgot it in your truck.
It was in the truck.
I see.
Yeah, so it fell out of my pocket last night when I went out for ice cream. Completely forgot about it. Big ups to what is it, Petrucci's?
Oh, you went to Petrucci's.
And I got me one of them big old ice cream cookie sandwiches. So if you're local to Phoenixville, go over there and copy one of those. $4 for some amazingness.
Petrucci's is good.
Yeah, you're gonna make a mess, but go up there and check them out.
Go make a mess.
Yeah, go make a mess. But I definitely just felt foggy, and it's like it takes me a day or two to get back to clarity. But I'm honestly going to take a break from alcohol for a bit. I know we all work in a bar, so it's going to take some discipline. But I'm just feeling like I need a break, and I want to give my body a break because it's like
probably save a lot of money too.
Hell yeah, I'm trying to save money because I'm trying to get better with my finances. So shout out to my mom. It only took me 27 years to finally realize I maybe need to start saving some money. But I just want to get everything back to normal, and I kind of want to start treating my body better. Because I preach a lot about living a good life and being positive and doing all these things, and then I don't always live that with my own self. And I want to start just kind of practicing what I preach from a health standpoint, and just get back to a more clear space and a more healthy space to where I feel better. Because I know I feel groggy sometimes and drowsy and all this stuff, but that's the goal. I just want to get rid of this fog and kind of get some clarity and just get back to normal.
I was just going to ask if you had do you have a plan, or are you just going to give it a couple weeks?
Well, I'm going to start, so I don't want to come up with this huge lofty goal that seems outrageous, so I want to start with a week. So I started it yesterday, so I would say Sunday, and I had the opportunity to get alcohol yesterday. I went out to our place of business and checked it out, and I could have got a beer. I ended up just hanging out, not getting a beer. And these are things that maybe normal people would be like, oh, that's nothing. But it's like when you get used to drinking, it almost becomes like a social, societal norm to go out and have a beer. Even if it's just one beer, it's like, hey, you want to go here and have a beer? You want to go here and have some wine? And so I started it yesterday, and I'm hoping to I'm not hoping to, because I'm going to speak in positives. I'm going to go a week. So Sunday to Sunday. I'm going to readdress how I feel on Sunday, and then I'm hoping to eventually get a month out of it. I'd like to get a month of just cleanse the body, month of no alcohol, and just see how I feel. I'm hoping to sleep better because my sleeping patterns haven't been the best, and I'm just hoping to overall feel better and think clearer because I have a lot of things that I'm doing right now that require a lot of thought, and that's the goal. Yeah, just start slow and then build it.
Yeah, I feel you. And anytime I get like this, I always try to, like you said, you don't want to do any crazy change everything because you want to make realistic goals.
Yeah.
In order to make lasting changes and build new habits, you have to take realistic steps. And I feel like I always just kind of need to bring myself back to just kind of an intuitive, because I know that I know deep down what's good for me. There's a lot of influences left and right of consume this, that, this, whatever. But I know how something's going to make me feel, so I just want to consume consciously. Like, and that's like one phrase that I try to like think of like as often as I can, because it's not even just food. It's like what you're watching, what you're reading, who you're hanging out with and talking to, what, and like everything like that you're consuming, and all of that is affecting who you are. Like input, output. Like if you're inputting shit all the time, like your output is going to be shit. Whether it's like physically, how you feel, like what your brain is producing, like all of that stuff. So I just like I honestly want to get like a shirt made just to like fucking remember.
I was honestly thinking that like consume consciously. Literally just
patent.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, did you hear that somewhere? Because that's a patent.
That's gonna be a shirt.
First.
I'm also all about alliteration, so if it's gonna be,
alliterations are great.
Definitely.
But I've noticed that I eat, like you're saying, when I drink in excess, which I've been guilty of in the past. I just have a lot of, my family, they're comfortable drinkers. I don't want to come in anybody's life, but we're comfortably drinkers.
It's a socially acceptable thing.
Most of us are.
Yeah.
It's socially acceptable self-poisoning.
Right, but I've had, to top on to the alcohol poisoning, I've eaten McDonald's twice in the last month. I went 5-6 years without McDonald's. And then I guess I reached a point where it was like,
rock bottom.
Yeah, like I think this is my rock bottom, because it was one night where me and Will were hanging out, and this is one of my issues with Phoenixville that I want to put out there. So if there's any locals that have any pull, we need some not only late night food options, but some healthy late night food options. So if we could have like, just give me like a salad place that's open till midnight or something like that, I'll work there. I don't give a shit. I'll work there once a week if you guys don't want to stay open that late. But like the food options in Phoenixville are not great after 10 o'clock, because you can go to the bars, but what are we eating at the bars? Fried food.
Why don't we just start a conditionally human late night salad bar?
We should.
That'd
be so cool.
Awesome.
I'd be so down with that. But I
consume consciously.
Yeah, boom. Buy Conditionally Human. It's a lot of C's, but I love it. You know what I mean? I'm throwing it up.
Yeah, and like when I fall off, and like if I start, like if I'm drinking too much, I will definitely. I don't know if it's like a stress on like, because I feel kind of out of line with my beliefs or values. But then I just kind of start like defeating and being like, all right, fuck it. Like I'm already going balls to the wall and like drinking. I may as well just eat some shit right now.
Literally how I think.
Yeah, and
literally.
Then I just and then I don't even want to do. I don't want to read anything or watch anything that stimulates me. So I just put some shit on the TV that I can just zone out. And I just thinking about it now, like in like abstract like that. Like I hate that.
You feel like shit.
Yeah, it's like it's such an out of control way of like living, and it's so normal these days.
And it's habit-forming stuff, because, like, habits take, they say, 21 days to perform. I've been drinking a lot longer than 21 days. Yeah. So then the food follows it, and I've noticed that my diet has been horrendous. And this is big ups to Will, because he has told me my diet is shit. Like, and that's not mincing words. He's like, you eat shit. And I'm like, fuck you.
Regrettably.
Yeah. No, but it's fine, though, because that was like one of the first things where I was like, you know what? Like, I got pissed at him, but I got mad at him because he was right. And I was like, fuck, I'm eating horrendous foods. And I just want to start eating food that complements my brain and protects just my life later on down the line. Because, like, certain like mind degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and all that, the biggest contributors to those things are alcohol and food that is way too fatty, way too much sugar, way too much bullshit that doesn't protect your brain. So I'd like to start researching, and this is where Will's going to come in, and we're going to have a little sit down. I want to start eating foods that protect my brain and mainly my heart, because my family has a history of heart problems, and my mom has gone through some issues where she's had to get stents in her heart. And my mom's always been a healthy eater. Like, we grew up with very balanced diets, but it's just like, if she's going to have heart problems, chances are I'm going to run into some issues with my heart in the future, and I'd like to do what I can to prevent anything super serious, because I don't want to be 50 and having a fucking clogged artery or having a heart attack. I'd like to kind of combat that in any way that I can. Obviously, genetics are going to be genetics. But yeah, man, I'm a little foggy today. So if I'm trying real hard to not interrupt anybody talking. But if my responses or anything just seem a little cloudy today, blame it on the alcohol. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I can buy. One thing I was gonna say before.
Yeah, I was thinking that as I said it.
Before you solidify the thought there, is the giving up the alcohol is a big step.
Right.
Reintroducing yourself to alcohol, I think, is a bigger step.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's when, that you'll really be tested, is once you start drinking again. Because I've kind of gone a good stint without drinking before, and then I realized, like, this New Year's is coming up, all right? So now I'm gonna be sloshed. You know what I mean? So, like, I think that's, like, really counterintuitive to, like, the whole, like, process that you just went through. So whenever you do, like, decide that you're gonna have a beer again, I think, just make sure that we're around.
Yeah, this is going to be a lesson in self-control because, yes, I'm taking away a contributor to issues in myself that I personally have, but it's also, like Calvin just said, it's not that, I don't think alcohol is the problem, I think my decision-making is the problem, and I think when I go into it, I do things in excess. I like my life in excess sometimes because excess can be really fun and really fulfilling, but it can be overdone. And I know I do that with alcohol. Yeah, I might be able to control my level of drunk and I might not seem, but that's a problem in itself that I can consume large amounts of alcohol and be under control. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
And that's not self-control that I want to exhibit. I want self-control and a positive, healthy life, and that's my goal.
Yeah, and I totally what you're saying, Calvin, makes so much sense because like I honestly like, and this is why you'll often see or like things I'm doing diet-wise seem really extreme. It's because I think it's easier to cut something out entirely than to just have like a little bit. So as soon as I have a little bit of something like shitty, it's just. It's an addiction. I'm definitely an addict. Like,
well, facts. I think we all are addicts in our own way. But like you said, and I agree, I have to quit things cold turkey. Like I used to smoke cigarettes when I was in the military, and I didn't do the patch or the gum or anything. I got home from Afghanistan, and it was like a month after that, and I went on a run. And I couldn't breathe. Like, I literally could not breathe.
In there,
yeah, like, I was literally... And I was smoking a lot, like a pack and a half, 2 packs a day of menthols. So I was destroying my insides. And it was that moment where I was like, I'm 22, 21.
Were you on Newports?
Yeah. Newports and Marlboro menthols were my cigarettes of choice. And the military is not really a great place because tobacco usage in the military is just rampant, and they give it to you for super cheap. But when I couldn't run, I was like, I gotta fix this, and I just stopped. And since then, I think I've had drags on cigarettes here and there because I was drunk. So it's like one inhibitor leads to another inhibitor, leads to another. So it's like, but I don't think I've had a cigarette for a while, and the smell used to be enticing to me still. And now I'm reaching a point where I don't enjoy the scent of cigarettes, and I don't.
And I start to disgust.
Exactly. And I tried one, like I think it was, I don't know, a year ago, something like that. I remember, and I took a drag, and I was like, "What the fuck? What was I doing this for? This is so gross." So it's like, it's just, I don't know. It's habits. Habits form, and you got to be responsible, and you got to break them. But yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to touch on. You know, I mean, life can get foggy at times, and certain things can contribute to that fog, and it's on us to find clarity and clear it up.
Just maintain a good philosophy.
Exactly.
About how you approach these things.
Oh, yes, philosophy. Speaking of, I'm currently reading Plato's The Republic. Plato is a philosopher. I don't know if you guys know that.
Where did you get that book?
I didn't even have to pirate it. It's free online if you want a digital version. On Project Gutenberg.
I thought it was something that you had.
Is that the one that you have up there? No, you have a Plato book up there. If it's the Republic, I will totally.
I think it is the Republic.
Grab that. All right, well then I would like to have a physical version. So
yeah. Do you like reading? Not to draw you off topic. How different is it for you to read? Because I can't. I've never been able to like transition to reading on a tablet. I don't feel as accomplished as opposed to when I have a paper book.
It's easier as far as like carrying it around. Either just one book wise, like carrying my tablet versus like my one book, because now I have like my tablet if I want to do other things or look shit up, and this book.
You're just lightening your load.
Yeah, or just like the fact that it's a whole library of books.
Yeah.
Like just in
you can hold thousands of books. Yeah.
I want to get one. I was thinking about getting like one of the little cheaper like Amazon.
Yeah, I had a Kindle.
Kindle things.
It's a Kindle.
They're cheaper. They're really cheap now, and you can get
it for like $60.
Yeah, and then like you can carry around a lot of books. But what about the Republic?
There is something about holding the physical book though.
Yeah,
I feel a sense of accomplishment when you close that last page and then you look at the book, and if it's like a thicker book, you're like, I conquered that. Yeah. Like I did that.
I took all that thickness.
Yeah, I took the thickness of that book in, baby.
Right to my brain.
Right, fucking dope. But not to stray too far here. So what are we looking at with the Republic?
All right. So Socrates was a teacher of Plato. This is we're talking like ancient like Greece or whatever.
It's definitely Greece.
Yeah. So Socrates was basically just like this guy. He didn't write a lot of his stuff down or even like anything. So I guess that's why Plato felt the need to embody Socrates in his work in the Republic, because the Republic is mostly just a dialogue with Socrates talking. And
is it easy to follow?
It's confusing as shit. I'm only on book 2 at the moment. There's like 5 books within it. And then like I read a little bit of it's this guy writing a summary / his thoughts on it. And I read a little bit of that, but I just skipped to just reading the Republic now. But so it's mostly in dialogue form, and the names back then are really crazy. So it's can be hard to follow. And just the way they talk in general is like. It's like I end up rereading things a lot, and it takes me so much longer to get through a page or two. But it's really cool, and I love Socrates so much because he was like, in my eyes, the king of conversation and being able to have productive conversations with people, even if they disagree with you. He's all about introspection and truly diving into whether or not you know something, because he wants to live in a world of people who live consciously like that and don't just like blindly just have opinions and beliefs, because that's where a lot of issues with like states and government and just like relationships kind of stem from. It's just these this lack of introspection and always just kind of falling victim to your own mind and getting like rigid and stuck in your own thoughts and beliefs and whatnot. And so he's just having this, at least where I'm at, he's just having this conversation with these guys. And this is Socrates through Plato's lens, who he was a student of him. And this, I think he wrote this after Socrates was condemned to death. He was put to death for corrupting, quote unquote, corrupting the youth. Because he basically would just walk around and have these conversations with people about how they don't actually know what they know. He would just constantly question and not really assert anything and just say like, I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm trying to learn from you. But he's like...
And they killed him for it.
Pretty much, yeah. Because it's... I can see, and I relate to it a lot, I can see how it could get very taxing and annoying, because not everyone is trying to always just be like, constantly questioned. It's almost like a really educated child who's just like asking why over and over and over again, and it causes you to introspect. Like that's his goal, is for you to like thoroughly dive into your own thoughts, and you're doing that through basically teaching him. So he goes around and he's just like has a conversation with someone and basically waits for them to say something that has to do with like, I don't know, like any sort of like large, important, meaningful beliefs, like justice or government, or like good versus evil, or like that kind of stuff, and then just kind of starts asking them questions, like trying to learn from them, like have them convince him of their position or their beliefs.
It's a windy ass day.
Random slightly ass day.
Talking about Socrates.
So yeah, and it drives people crazy to the point where like they're like, this guy is just a menace to society. So they put him to death, and they give him the opportunity to just be like,
condemn it and say, no, I'm cool.
Well, they give him the opportunity before death to just like, I don't remember what they ask him. I'm not to that part in the book yet, but like it's something basically just to like
last words,
admit something, or like admit you're wrong, or like go back on his beliefs, and he won't do it. So he just like he believes in truth and just like being like introspective and really only knowing what you can possibly know, and being objective and like that kind of stuff, and he just believed in it so much that he was willing to be put to death for it.
Well, that's powerful. And obviously we know his name, and we don't know the names of who put him to death, and we don't know who was in power who made the call to put him to death. So obviously his effect on society and world history it just knows no bounds at this point.
I just think it's super relevant to. Well, I mean, I guess it's always been relevant because there's always been people disagreeing about things, and I think people should be more mindful when they're having a conversation with someone. If they disagree with you, that isn't an end to the conversation, or that isn't a time to attack or get hostile or assert your opinion or whatever. That's a time to learn. If this person has an opinion that is different from yours, why would you not want to expand your mind or your reality? And if there is even a slight chance that this person has like the right answer or a better maybe belief or worldview or whatever, why wouldn't you want to take that opportunity to learn a little bit about this person and their position, and either you're going to leave the conversation still disagreeing with them, or you're going to leave it and maybe have a slightly different opinion or that kind of thing. It's not always about changing someone's, like, even if you are right and this person is wrong, if you want to help them, you can only help them if they want your help.
I think it's also valuable, too, just to know, like, having your own consciousness, to know when you're speaking to somebody that you might agree with or you might think is maybe a certain amount of bullshit. Like, to take that consciousness, like, with you into that conversation and just know that the information that you're getting from them is kind of, you know, for you to learn, but also kind of dissect and try to understand and try to, like, realize, okay, when I'm talking to this individual, I might disagree with them. I can see where they're coming from, but I also see, like, where their ideas are flawed, you know. But I'm going to let them ride with that because I can only give them so much.
Yeah, and if you really want to, if you truly believe that someone is holding some sort of flawed belief or opinion or something like that, if you really want to change their mind or at least get them to think about that a little more in hopes of maybe changing their mind, you're going to have to do that through basically Socrates' method, which has been coined Socratic method or Socratic dialogue. And it's just one person asking questions and the other person basically like answering all the questions. And that's how you get someone to, like, you keep asking them questions that are objective, but maybe also kind of leading them to that like aha moment where they kind of realize, like, they find that hitch in their thought process, and they're like, oh, wait, you're right, like, or not, you're right. I mean, they might even feel like you're saying, like, you're right, because there's something about asking those questions. It's like you're bringing them to that place, but it's them walking there in their own mind and thought patterns.
I feel like that's a good way to kind of approach, like, a critique of somebody's creative work, you know, in a way to where you're kind of probing the ideas and kind of probing their thought process to stimulate them to kind of think about it themselves. Because ultimately, when you meet another artist, it's like real recognizes real. Like, I realize that you're an artist and you're doing this artwork, you know, because you're trying to gain something from it, from you. You might show it publicly or whatever else, but you're not really doing it for an audience. You're doing it for you. So I realize that. So I'm going to probe you to get you to think about your own work. And then hopefully, you know, you creating the work created my probing, which created a further thought process in yourself. And so that's what it kind of sounds like. You know, that would be, you know, that's my way to kind of relate to it.
You've brought that up before, even in just like us talking about like the works that you've shown it, like, done recently and then shown us, is like we're giving you a new insight into like your own thought process or your own work or like that kind of thing, and like giving you the opportunity to explore yourself further, because like it can be hard to introspect by yourself. Like, it's a practice. It should be done, but at the same time, other people are a really valuable way to learn more about yourself. And I think people just need to be a little more open-minded and willing to learn, whether or not you disagree. It's like,
and willing to probe, like, willing to be that use that, what do you call it, Socratic method.
Socratic method.
You know, like, using that to kind of deepen each other. I feel like that's what we kind of do with each other, is try to probe each other. It's like, okay, I see that you're interested in this, so I'm going to like kind of probe it a little bit more, just to get you to start thinking about it. It's almost like like a language. Like if you have a language that you speak, but you don't get to speak it that often with too many people, then you start to kind of lose some of the, phonetic value of it, or you might even lose like the actual language from your memory, certain words. But once you meet somebody that you can actually practice it with, then your language gets stronger, in whatever language it is. So, using that method, I think, would like further everything that we try to accomplish as individuals.
Definitely.
Because it's just like, if I sit down to show you, an artwork or whatever else, like, you're gonna dive into it with that mindset, and then I'm gonna like be stronger after it. It's like people think that it's hard to like be like an art critic, but I think what you don't realize is like it's really easy if you're just invested in the individual, not so much the artwork, because you're not being a critic to decide if something looks good or looks bad or whatever. Because for the most part, unless you're doing like illustration, that's not really the case. Like, what's going on with it? Like, what are you trying to get out of it? That's what I'm probing as a critic. I mean, I guess that's like, in a way, like I think we all like critique work, even if we don't want to critique work.
Yeah.
Depending on how you respond to something when you walk into a room, like it's a criticism if you engage with it or not. So, I don't know. I think that's pretty valuable. Do you feel like you know enough about Socrates, the person? Like that you can kind of like just give it like an idea, just in case if somebody's never heard of him or whatever else. Was he like an individual that was well like respected at that time? Was he poor?
Like I said about just like he wasn't well respected. He's kind of like viewed negatively by the government for the most part.
But with like the people though.
People, I think, were usually he was seen as like wise and someone you'd want, like if you wanted to have like a good conversation with, it seems. But at the same time, people would get very uncomfortable and uneasy with basically how hard it was to have a conversation with him, because you'd have to really think about everything that you're saying and believe, and it's just like
turns into an existential crisis.
Yeah, definitely. And so I could see how people would get really kind of like annoyed and even like in my personal life, like how people will get annoyed with me when I do similar things, just because like I don't. It's hard for me to accept things and not be critical or skeptical and try to dive in like that. And so people, and that's how he was. He'd basically just walk around. Like that's literally, he would just walk around places in public and just have conversations with people.
It's pretty rad.
I feel like I fit in well in Phoenix.
I feel like I know a couple individuals. And that's what's funny is like sometimes, I catch myself almost not disregarding, but just like kind of almost like ignoring or just letting it happen when I do come across individuals that exist in that way. But then I kind of rethink about it, and if I have the time to engage with them, depending on who they are, if they're not too out there, like there's a limit, but like if you seem like you might have something interesting, I'll try to like, pull that string a little bit. Yeah. And then like, that's the thing that I think, that's our crux. I think we don't have time to really engage. Cause back then I feel like there was time to like stop with this man and like have a conversation and have him take you somewhere with that conversation. So I feel like there was probably like a good group of artists or intellectuals that followed him so that they can have those conversations.
Yeah, definitely. People recognized that if you wanted to get deep, get into it, like he was the man to talk to. But for the lay person, they were just like not trying to do that personal work.
Yeah.
Like it's so interesting. It is definitely interesting, and it's a balance. I try to kind of go by his method and his philosophy and whatnot, but at the same time, like you got to recognize in certain conversations, like people aren't trying to have it. Like I'm not trying to get put to death because I want people to think about themselves. Like
that's why you just make a podcast instead. Yeah, and if they choose to listen to it, they can. But we can't probe our audience too much. I guess it'd be kind of hard to. Yeah. We want to start engaging more with.
Yeah, freaking engage with us.
Yeah. Send us some emails. That's what's I think is also like fun about this like kind of new structure is like we do find these topics that we're interested in, we can talk about for so long. But if you guys have something that you want us to kind of just look into, something interesting, something that we might have missed, we're always looking for different perspectives of things to dive into. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
we're very much aware of who we are and the things that we're interested in. But if you can like bring something to the table that we might be interested in and dive into, like I'm all for that. So yeah.
I love things. I love.
It would be cool if we made like a post or something and we're like just comment some topic ideas and then we just picked like a couple of them and went in on them.
Or just something you, like, based on listening to us or knowing us, something that you want us to learn about.
Yeah.
And then,
it could be anything.
Yeah, and then if we want to talk about it on the podcast, like, let's do it.
We'll do it. Email us.
Yes. Email us.
We'll put the @ and all that stuff in the description, but it is just Conditionally Human Podcast at gmail.com. Well, I got a little lecture for you guys. Funny to call it a lecture, but I feel like I've been kind of researching the idea of like originality. This past week, actually, real quick, I'm gonna read something.
Wait, could you just, like, break right here and you can just, like, snip this, but I just gotta piss.
Yeah, do what you gotta do. Go take a piss.
Doing that, like farting.
Farting? Fart beatboxing? Yeah. That'd be fucking great. We would definitely have to do an intro of that.
Oh, facts. I just might want to be in the other room.
Yeah.
We'll just leave the mic here and we'll watch.
Especially if he's been on that vegan diet.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm trying to
some of them vegan farts
are right,
a little much.
Right.
Bathrooms have great acoustics.
Yeah.
We were just wondering if you could do that with your butthole.
With your gluteus maximus as a...
Sometimes I'll fart and I'll be like, that's kind of like a beat.
Oh, yeah. So before I get into this thing about originality and stuff like that, I found one of my old notebooks, not a sketchbook, a notebook from when I was in undergrad. I'd taken some contemporary art class and set in some really great notes in here and stuff like that. But I remember, like, on the first day of class, I think I had this sketchbook and the board in front of it was calling to me. So I wrote this kind of poetic thing. The unusual, the strange, the unexplainable, the boring, the simplistic, the loud, the exciting, the new, the monochromatic, the enigmatic, the personal, the unexpected, the wanted, the bizarre, the wrong, the political, the long, the quiet, the shitty, the untrained, the experienced, the different, the changing, the gray, the colorful, the honorable, the straightforward, the cold, the entertaining, the redundant, contemporary art. It was a contemporary art class. And I just wrote that on the first day of class. I don't know what it means, but it's like, a bed of flowers. You don't even know what it means.
Could be analyzed, though. Like, if you sat with it, I'm sure you could find some meaning in it. But I think it just sounded like confusion within what contemporary actually is, maybe. Or just your original view. I would have liked to see you write something at the end of the class. You said you wrote that at the beginning.
Yeah.
I would like to see, like, what you would have come up with at the end of it, just to see if it was either more positive or more negative.
Yeah, that's true.
There's one on the back.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this leans more positive or negative?
I'd say it leans more towards negative, in my opinion. I read it as, because it seems like you're describing it as something it's just repetition. It's repeated. It's never. But that's just from you reading it. That's just what I got. I could be off. I mean, I don't know where you were mentally when you wrote it, but
just curious.
I saw it as just like all encompassing. Like it's life.
It's jumbled for sure.
Like, contemporary art is just life.
Yeah.
Like it's all of this.
So it is. It's all about the everything, the stew and all that stuff. So this past week. A few days ago, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, I had a friend that messaged me on social media, and he had a question about originality, and he basically said that something that, like, somebody told him that, originality is dead, like, nothing's original, everything comes off of something else, which is half true. I think I have a whole theory of, like, the idea of, like, our ancestors and spirits have left seeds for us to discover and create things off of those seeds, but I'll get into that on another podcast because that's a whole book I want to write. But anyways, I'd let him know. This is what I told him. I said, originality is a journey. It's not always a fresh product with a quote-unquote new sticker slapped on it. Some original ideas are revelations when they are realized, and others take time to sink in before their originality is seen by the public. In a way, everything is original. Whenever you make something that you have doubts about its originality, it's nice to say, there's never been this thing made by this person, me, in this space ever before. Therefore, it is original. Now, how can I take that further? And I think that's like kind of what sparked this idea of me to like further investigate this like idea of, you know, originality and like with everything that came before this thing that you are creating or whatever else, to question if it's original or question if it's a copy or imitating something else. So Pablo Picasso is known to have said, great artist copy, great artist steal. But where does this idea really come from, and how can we really break it down to interpret it correctly? The quote, or the idea rather, has lived a pretty strong life. It's even been endorsed by the likes of Steve Jobs amidst multi-million-dollar lawsuits hinging on the concept of originality and creative protections. So he's like quoting like, you know, great artist steal while he's in multi-million-dollar lawsuits and stuff like that. And so it was kind of publicized that he's like bragging about what he's done, or whatever. But there's like a lot of bumper stickers and, you know, tote bags that credit this quote to Picasso. But I feel like there's, you know, another individual, like probably more like individuals who previously, in my opinion, like more eloquently stated this idea. So there's this guy named W.H. Davenport Adams who, in an article titled "Imitators and Plagiarists," publicized in the Gentleman's Magazine in 1892. It was a Gentleman's Magazine.
I wish there were. Well,
it could be. No, it could be a good idea because it sounds like what this thing does was like kind of teaching men how to be respectful in the community and stuff like that. So, one of the excerpts from this little thing addressing what I'm talking about, I'm just going to read it verbatim. So this is just jumping in, but just listen to the words that are used, not so much like who he's talking about or whatever. But so it says, of Tennyson's assimilative method, when he adopts an image or a suggestion from a predecessor and works it up into his own glittering fabric, I shall give a few instances, offering as the result, in the summing up of the preceding inquiries, a modest canon. Quote, the great poets imitate and improve, whereas small ones steal and spoil. So to paraphrase, Davenport says to imitate was commendable, but to steal was unworthy. So he's kind of saying the same thing that everybody credits Picasso as saying, but it's changed dramatically and yeah, really different. So it's important to first look at the words used to express this idea, as Davenport refers to it, a modest canon. In Davenport's message, we get the terminology to imitate. Using the word imitate instead of the word copy, I think, implies less villainy to the notion of using a source material for inspiration. So it's like if I see a painting or a manifestation of creativity and I set out to copy it, in my eyes, I'm setting out to recreate the same exact thing. I just want to make that thing. Which, no knock to that. Like, there's good value to that. Like, you can really learn some great technical skills, but you can also like learn a lot more just making the same marks that some great artist did before. I mean, if you think about it, like, if somebody that did something great, they were great. I just want to like feel what it feels like to make those brush strokes or make those moves with my body or whatever else it might be. So I think there's like value to making a master copy of a work. That's fine. But working from the mindset of setting out to imitate a work, I take that as working through the source material, eventually achieving something I feel is like original enough or so far from the initial source that I more completely understand my own thoughts. Not so much that painting or what that artist was going through, but like I achieved like something of my own. Like that painting that we saw of Jasper Johns at the Philly Museum. The fall, like when I saw that painting, like I got something from that artist. Like something just was like amazing about that work to me. And like when I saw it, I just saw a painting of my own that was like imitating it, but changed dramatically. That's the Adam and Eve painting, the garden and whatever. So yeah, but with the notion of copying, Davin refers to it as the act of like stealing and spoiling. That's how he says it in the quote. Is, small ones steal and spoil. And I think it's important to have that last part in there about spoiling. Because if one takes it upon themselves to copy or steal or even imitate a work, mentally, the task of doing so is like really daunting, as it should be. Like I said, that person was great, and they did something great, and you want to skip everything they went to and just make that thing. You know what I mean? So it's like really daunting, and you have to like really convince yourself that you're worthy of even like doing it. But if you do so, and you transcend the work, and the original source is like completely concealed, and you display your own voice, then I think you're not making a reproduction of that work. You're making conversations with it, and you're making something that can engage in that conversation strongly, especially if it's like better than, in your own opinion. You're gonna like your own work maybe more than the other ones, but once, like, not to say I like my painting more than the fall. I like them both equally, because now I know something a little bit more about how I feel about what I was painting, and about how I feel about that painting and the marks that he made. Because it is fun to say, oh, like, how do you make that mark? Like, how do you make that scratch?
Mm-hmm.
Or, how did Basquiat draw the crown like that? Like, it's making those marks feels good.
Yeah.
But like working through them to the point where you like transcend them, and then you're making your own stuff, and you still have little elements in there. I think that's when you're really like making it. But I mean, like there's a lot of instances of like copying. Like I don't know if I've like showed you guys these things before, but there's instances of like verbatim copying, in art. Like it's like straight up copying, but it's widely accepted, I guess. That depends on how you respectively do it. So this photo that I'm showing you guys is called Alabama Cotton Tenant Farmer Wife by Walker Evans. And this was shot in 1936. It was like just showing, portraits of real life people, not high class people. These are middle class to low class, Depression era people living lives. That's wrong, right? This one is... There's this one called After Walker Evans, which I thought I had it in the slideshow, but I was not as prepared as I thought I was. By Sherry Levine. And that's her photo. So her photo is a photo of his photo.
I remember we were talking about this last time. Yeah.
So she basically took a picture of his picture and printed that picture, and that's her picture. And it's titled After Walker Evans for 1981.
It's stupid, in my opinion. I hate it. I think what you did speaks to your talent level and speaks to your creativity, and they're different. Mm-hmm. And I think even in painting, like if you try to mimic a painting, I think there's always going to be a mark or a miss that you have that makes it unique to where it's not a carbon copy of the original. This upsets me a little bit, because it's like she took it, she's like, okay, art. I'm going to put a picture down, take a picture of that picture, and now this picture is my picture because I took a picture of his picture. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of those situations where that's stealing becoming spoiled. Because the original is always going to be the original. So what is this? This is just a picture of an original. I could take a picture of an original Picasso and then try to sell that as oh, look, this is a picture of Picasso's work. Like I don't know. That, well, I mean, I struggle with that one a little bit. I could do that, but I wouldn't feel right doing it. Mm-hmm. I think I would have a moral issue with doing that.
But there's some transcendence there, though, because if you're taking a picture of a Picasso painting, mm-hmm. then you're already changing it up.
Right. So okay, that's fine.
Like, so you're making more changes.
All right, so let's just talk about it in situations like what it is. If you let's say you took a picture and it was a great picture and you edited it and I was like, wow, and people really responded to it. 20 years later, I take a picture of that picture. I don't think that's fair. I mean, if she would have took this picture and then edited it in a way that made it unique, like maybe just made it maybe added color to it. Like, that would have been different. Let's say, because the original was in black and white. If she would have, because I know they can do that. So if she would have just added color to it, then it's different. Then I would maybe respect it a little bit. I don't know. But it's complicated. I think that's a very slippery slope right there.
It's like you have to weigh how much you value each individual change. Like, it is different than the original in terms of the original was a photograph of this person, of this real life thing, and this one is a photograph of this person. So it's like a meta photograph.
It's like another dimension.
Yeah, so it is different in some regard, but I think it's art in a new way that each, like, it's the same though, because each individual person has to weigh their own how much they value that difference. Like, do you value the meta aspect? Like, it's like thoughts on top of thoughts of like, it's like the original and then thinking about the original. So it's different, and it's like her take on consuming the original.
Did she give a nod? So she did give a nod to walk.
It's in the title.
So it's not like she was trying to like.
No, yeah,
Okay.
It's straight up. It's in the
All
title.
right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not. That's just not for me. Like, if it's that's fine, but that's not for me.
Yeah. What about so that's like one instance of like
Yeah.
being accepted of like a legitimate like copy of a work, you know.
Right.
But then there's like other instances, like I don't know if you remember the video for Kanye West's song "Famous."
Nope.
So he did this video called "Famous." Well, he has a song called "Famous." He did the video of it, and this is like one of the stills from that video. And you have him and Kim in the middle, and then this is Taylor Swift. This is just like supposed to be Amber Rose.
Is that Donald Trump?
Donald Trump down here, Chris Brown. So that's like a still from, and it was like highly publicized, or like because these mannequins or whatever, 3D renderings or whatever, like they looked a lot like the actual people, whatever. But he got that from this painting by Vincent Desiderio, who is I guess you can call it realism, highly rendered painter, really well known up in New York, and makes these really elaborate, paintings. So you can see the comparison here. Like, is that copying or is that transcending? Like, do you feel like that's like a nod?
I think this is more a nod because it's not a carbon copy of the same thing. So I would
Should
respect.
you have had permission first?
Yeah, I think it's like in music. Like in music, in hip hop music, sampling is a thing where it happens all the time, but you always have to get permission to sample a song. Like there's people, and then even if you're not still, like the person's not still alive, they still have representatives that represent the copyright behind that music. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just the respectful thing to do to say, or get permission in some way, or at least put like inspired by, to give a nod to the original. Like in the music video, at the end of it, he could, like in the rolling credits or whatever, he could just be like, hey, this scene inspired by, and then give nod to the painting, to where people could go look at the original. Mm-hmm. And I think it's cooler. I respect what he did more now that I can see the original. It's a cool copy of it.
It's Bill Cosby.
Does art often or ever get copyrighted?
I don't know too much about the laws, but as far as like creative laws, essentially,
I know music does for sure, but
it would be good to like try to get some type of creative lawyer to like have like an interview for the cast at some point. I'll see what we could like find one. But from what I understand of like creative like endeavors and creative practices and creative manifestations, like when you create it, it's automatically like copyrighted. But I think that's when this whole question of originality comes into play. And in this situation, I think I remember researching it some, and I know that after the video was shot, after it was done, Kanye West did invite Vincent Desiderio out there, Vincent wasn't going to go. Like, he's not a celebrity type of person and stuff like that. But his kids told him to go, so he went, saw the video, and he was honored. He thought it looked great.
Oh, then that's cool.
There's no nod like in the video, like saying, like giving the name or anything like that. But if you...
The artist goes and says, "Boom!" That's the gold seal of approval.
If you know the imagery, like I saw the video and I knew exactly like what it was references because I had seen the painting before. Because Vincent Desiderio used to teach at PAFA.
Right.
He still comes back and does some critiques sometimes and stuff like that. But yeah, so like if you know the work and you saw the video, like you wouldn't even need like the inspired by like name after whatever. But I think it was also like people didn't really talk about it too much. But I think it was also in reference to, because in the video, it shows that big shot, but it also shows, like, under the covers, like, kind of in this really intimate way of, like, these people are sleeping, and you hear them snoring and stuff like that. And I think he was also referencing Andy Warhol did this project back in his day where he had these cameras set up in his roommate's room, and, like, his roommate was aware of it and everything like that, but there was just, like really close-up shots and different shots of him just sleeping through the night. or whatever, and this was projected really big in, galleries and museums and stuff, and it became like this transcendent of this like really intimate thing. Watching somebody sleep was like already kind of like, if you're sitting there watching somebody sleep, it's a little weird, like not weird, but like if you're infatuated with somebody, that's the situations that it happens. But this random stranger is just like being recorded that intimately or whatever. So I think he was kind of referencing that too, which I don't know if in my research that wasn't really brought up at all, but I think it's valuable to know of that video. So like if you search, I think I had it up actually, like just like the video of him just like sleeping, and I'm not going to play too much on the podcast obviously because it's a silent video, but different camera angles, some close up on his face, some on the back. It's just different, and just having this like projected through on a wall, like in real time. It's not like it's sped up or anything like that. So I guess he slept for like 5.5 hours almost, or something like that. I think it's funny when it happens. Not funny. I think it's interesting when it happens in pop culture because it's not always that people know that it's happening. Like even in this Beyonce.
Oh, the Beyonce. I knew that one was a recreation.
Yeah.
I knew that when I saw that.
Yeah, the Beyonce one. Like some people have seen this Pepillotti wrist video from the 90s, which is just like if you saw it in the museum or in an installation, it's really projected really big, and it's just her walking down the street in slow motion, just
beating the hell out of cars,
shit out of cars with this bat and everything. And it was like a project that they did. They had like one car, so they had to do that shot in one take and like stuff like that. And then Beyonce referenced it like hardcore in her video for Hold Up. Off of that Lemonade album. And when I saw it, I was like, oh shit, that's dope. She gave her a nod. And I feel like that imagery is the nod.
I think subtle nods are key with this kind of stuff. Like I don't like carbon copies, but nods I think I respect.
Yeah. I agree. And I'm like, there's like one.
So interesting. Do you, regarding the whole copyright thing, I know you said when something's created, you pretty much have that copyright, and I think that's like as long as you have like evidence of it, like so like if you have the painting or like if it is a photograph, like you have the photograph, and like so it's like that's like because there has to be some sort of proof of that. But then I think regarding like actual like copyright, like if you get something copyrighted, like in like a contract, like I think it has to basically be like tell what like the bounds of the copyright, like how close something could be to it.
Well,
and I feel like art is just like so any sort of copy or imitation of something can be interpreted in a different way, just because ultimately it is different, just because it's someone new handling it in some sort of way, and then so to any regard it'll be different. So I feel like that's almost impossible to truly.
It all depends on like money, and like who's getting a hold of it to profit off of it. I think, and it sucks that it comes to that, but I think what I mean with like that copyright, when you're creating something that is a work of quote unquote art, capital A, it's your piece of art, whether it's on the side of a wall or it's in your studio or it's written in your notebook or whatever else. It has a certain like protectiveness just because you created it. For instance, if I create something that's similar or the same, it's not like you can really sue me because I'm another artist that's just doing stuff too. And sometimes, that's what artists do. I think they create things like Picasso and Baroque. Picasso kind of stole, quote unquote, he imitated, Cubism from Baroque, and then he just kind of ran with it. So now people associate Picasso more with Cubism than Baroque. But like, if a company of some sort was to take your artwork, then there's issue, because they're like a corporate entity that's making these profits and using your work for profits without your consent.
Okay.
There's been instances with H&M taking street art, putting it on T-shirts, and then the artist finds out, or the artist followers find out, and then it's like, now now they have a lawsuit on their hands because they just used that person's artwork without their consent or whatever. They've had like straight up whole advertisement billboards using some artist's artwork, and they got like some big lawsuit from that because they didn't. And not to say, like, once you make something, it's always good to document it, and if you feel like it is an entity that needs to be like copyrighted, then by all means, like, go and get it copyrighted so that it's ultimately protected. Because everything I'm saying here is, one of our famous lines is, "I'm not an expert on this, and I'm not a lawyer." So everything I'm saying is not, by law, but you do have protections on the things that you create once you create them. So, I mean, like, if you have a drawing in your sketchbook and you see it on some shirt at H&M,
I think I'd be more pumped than anything. I'd be like, holy shit.
How could
but you gotta get a nod. You gotta get, like,
How
get
could
the
I prove
Instagram on there.
that, like, I didn't just draw it after I saw the shirt, though?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that depends on how good your lawyer is and stuff. And if you have, like, documentation for it and everything like that. Yeah. And I guess the likeliness of, like, how close it looks together. And I guess, how much money you have to pay for the right lawyer. Like, honestly, there's a lot of weird stuff, too, because, like, with, like, social media and stuff like that, like, supposedly, when you post photos and stuff on there, they have some type of rights to those photos that they can use them how they want to, but I'm not even sure how that might be, like, another subject to research for the next
that's a whole
next episode.
A whole barrel of information.
Maybe not that, but one of the episodes. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting when you do start thinking about some of the ideas of originality and the ideas of trying to feel original in your own space when you're creating your thing, because it does get heavy. Trying to find that balance between using your inspirations and letting them work through you, and also creating like your own and finding your own voice and putting that out there as like a new something. It's great to have idols to look up to, and I think it's great to have mobile mentors to look at through our phones and talk to and stuff like that. But it's also valuable to know what to take and what to not take, and how to use those seeds to evolve into a new plant species or whatever else. But yeah, man.
I think that was well done. I mean, everybody contributed really nicely today. Went smoothly. It was solid. That's going to close out this episode, folks. Just a reminder, the Atomic 26 issue that is going to feature an interview on this trio you are listening to currently will be out at the end of May or the beginning of June. As soon as we get an exact date, we're going to release that on the pod. We just haven't gotten confirmation on the exact date that's going to be dropped. We also have a YouTube channel officially. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go on there and find our channel, it's under Conditionally Human. We don't have any visual stuff yet. It's just going to be copies of the recordings for now until we start the visual element, which will be coming soon. And we are planning on getting some vlogs going. So as soon as we get all that hammered out and figured out, we're going to let you guys know, so then you can start following us on another platform as well and get to be a little bit more personal with the three whose voices now you get to know our faces a little bit more. It's been a pleasure, and we're going to see you guys again next week.
Real quick, I hope you guys are appreciating the new structure and everything. I think, how do you guys feel about? I think it's been feeling pretty good.
It feels smoother. I like it. Yeah.
It was really fun to like dive into a subject and research it, and like come at you guys with little PowerPoint slides. And
you got, and this is what's going to be cool about the visual element is like you guys can't see the level of work that Calvin put into that production right there. Is he had a full typed out page of information. He had a PowerPoint and visual elements to assist us in understanding what he's trying to convey. And once we get the visual element going, you guys are going to be able to dive a little bit deeper with us on a personal level. And that's what we're really excited about. But other than that, man, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you guys soon.
See you guys. Thanks.